17 is the number of the day here on this Coverkiller Nation review. This Coverkiller Nation review of White Devil Armory, the new album from Overkill. The United States thrash metal underground legends, which are finally starting to get more exposure. The Electric Age from 2012 actually broke into higher than the 100 spot on the Billboard Top 200 charts. In fact, this is an album right here, and White Devil Armory should even surpass that, as this is one that's largely anticipated. But why is the number 17 the number of the day? The number of the day is 17 because this is album number 17 from Overkill, one of the longest running thrash metal bands. In fact, one could say that these guys are one of the first, as they were formed in 1980. What can be said about this group? What can be said about this album that perhaps hasn't been said once before or doesn't feel as though it bears repeating, but it kind of does? For one, the ageless voice of Bobby Blitz Ellsworth continues to showcase itself through this album, through these tracks. He's screeching, howling, screaming, furiously spinning and spitting these words with all of the fury that he did more than 30 years ago whenever the band first started. This is something that is a marvel. We have heard so many times with so many different vocalists their own inception and their own growth, their own aging process. We've heard, James Hetfield from Metallica is a good example, really refine his style a little bit, especially after the 1990s, and we've seen him try to use glimmers of that 80s style after that, and it didn't exactly sound that great. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Saint Anger. We've seen the evolution of Dave Mustaine. We've heard how his voice has kind of morphed. It was always strange and kind of off-kilter, but it's one that has certainly centralized itself a little bit and at least become a little bit more of a part of our metal culture. But with Bobby, it's just ageless. This is something where the gruff stature of it really just kind of increases a little bit more with age. However, his abilities, his range, and just that overall howling fury that he's really able to project with each of these songs, and his real fearlessness whenever it comes to incorporating these screams, these yells. Wow. What can be said? 17 albums in, also the songwriting is still 100% Overkill and 100% kick-ass. This is an album that I feel really blends together some of the elements that we've heard from Overkill in this recent age, this post-2000s age, while also incorporating a little bit more of the old-style sound. There are some sounds on here that I could really easily pinpoint from the later part of the 1980s. We're talking off of albums such as Under the Influence or even the Years of Decay a little bit with tracks such as Freedom Rings. But also I see and hear a little bit of an early 90s horoscope type vibe that comes through a little bit. But that incorporation along with the more modern era work such as, Relics 14, Killbox 13, the Electric Age even by itself just really showcases this band's true diversity of sound and how they're able to evolve their own sound, evolve thrash metal as a whole, and just evolve. They're like the longest lasting thrash metal Pokemon. I can't believe I just said that. But at any rate, let's talk about this a little bit. A lot of people wanted me to review the first track off of this album, which was Armorist. And this was a great track. It had some very basic lyricism to it. It wasn't a track that necessarily was going to set your world on fire. It wasn't like the opening track from, say, for example, Ironbound, which really just seemed to set the soul on fire and just really showcase that this was going to be a thrashterpiece. This album is a thrashterpiece, White Devil Armory. It is, don't get me wrong. But it's a different thrashterpiece as compared to an album such as Ironbound, which was really able to really showcase a diverse and style, a diverse amount of songwriting, meanwhile also illuminating all of Overkill's best features. This album, instead, is one that really showcases the broad spectrum of Overkill's entire career in one nice, neat package, while at the same time sounding as though they've taken a step forward. Armorist shows that this is something where they don't necessarily have to really, step up their game by leaps and bounds in order to release just a kick-ass, straightforward, very direct and in-your-face track, and that's what this is. And that would be essentially what I would have said had I done a review of the song. But then you get to the meat of this album. You get to songs such as Bitter Pill, which I'm fairly certain has a little bit of something to do with, I think, Bobby's health over the past couple of years. Freedom Rings, Another Day to Die, and then definitely one that seems to fit right into the Overkill philosophy, King of the Rat Bastards. This is one that harkens me all the way back to the 1980s. It reminds me of days whenever Rat Skates was drumming for the band, and there's just this real philosophy. I remember I think it was the Under the Influence cover where they were running through the sewers, and I think that there were some rats that were present on the ground, and there was that familiar bat face that had the wings coming out of it that was chasing after a couple of people with laser beam eyes. Yeah, if you're an Avenged Sevenfold fan, fuck it. It's been done before. Get a new logo. I know, it's just whatever. But this is really cool. I mean, I love the fact that this song is really able to illuminate all of those things and bring it back. And this song is just a killer. It's one of my highlights of the album. I really enjoy this track. It is my, Little Debbie's Cupcakes, the sweetest comeback ever track of the day. If you want me to sponsor some shit like that fucked up nonsense that I just did, this is a really great song. I really, really like this. Bitter Pill is great, and Freedom Rings really showcases one of my favorite things that Overkill is able to do, and they have showcased it throughout the years, most notably on the Years of Decay, and that's what happens whenever they expand the track out, because this one spans nearly 7 minutes, and it really showcases a lot of their abilities. The guitar work on this album is very, very tight. It's very crisp. There's not much that I need to say about that because this is just a very talented chord that really are able to blend a nice level of thrash metal intelligence alongside of very, very solidly crafted soloing. The bass is thick, and that's something that we're used to as Overkill fans, so this is something that's expected. If we didn't hear that, we would truly think that something was wrong with this band. We would think that something really bad happened, because that thick bass is one of the staple signatures of an Overkill album, and it's something that's present here just as thumpy as before. And the drumming is also sweet as well. The song composition, the writing, and everything just has a very nice, solid texture to it. It's definitely one that feels bigger and more grandiose than at times it really is. And that's the sign, one of the signs of a really good album. Whenever you're able to make something sound more massive than it truthfully is, then damn, you're doing something right. You're making something that just bombastically seems as though it is ginormous, when in reality, you might not be doing anything that's necessarily setting the world on fire. Either that, or you may not be doing anything that is, setting any land speed records for guitar shredding. Either that, or, being the fastest drummer on earth. This is one of those exercises where you can plainly see that you don't necessarily need to be an exhibitionist in order to write and release just fantastic, fantastic music, especially in the thrash metal department. What more can't I say about this album? It's definitely one that is highly anticipated. It's definitely one that also follows through and really delivers on all of the expectations of the fans. People who pick this up are going to really, really respect this work. Not to mention they're also going to feel that it's got some strong material on it, and it's Overkill basically with each progressive album just thanking their fans for being there and just releasing great material. The songwriting ability and the overall feel of this album just continues to illuminate and progress the Overkill legend to, whatever beyond legendary status is. Might have to call Neil Patrick Harris to figure that one out, because I sure as fuck don't know what it is. I would give this album a strong 86 out of 100. There's very little for me to complain about this disc. In fact, I can't think of anything really at all. There's 2 bonus tracks if you happen to pick up the deluxe edition of this, and they both incorporate 2 styles that maybe you hear twinges of in some Overkill material, but this is something that's kind of different, and I like it. The fight song reminds me of what Overkill would sound like if they merged with, I don't know, the Dropkick Murphys or something like that, and just wrote just a good old-fashioned drinking song, even though it's more geared towards fighting. And all of a sudden, the South Park, Russell Crowe making movies, singing songs, and fighting around the world song jingle just pops into my head. And then Miss Misery reminds me of just a good old-fashioned hard rock song, hard rock / heavy metal, maybe in the vein of like an AC/DC or something like that. 2 styles that perhaps you hear incorporated into Overkill's main material, here and there, very, very limitedly, but you see and you hear it completely in these tracks, and it's just a really, really cool experience. I can't praise that diverse element, even if they are just bonus tracks, enough. It's a really, really awesome experience, one that I highly recommend. So what did you guys think about White Devil Armory? Do you think that this really deserves to be in the pantheon of great Overkill albums, or is this one that's just kind of middling, one that's just okay to you? What's one of your favorite Overkill albums or songs? Have you guys gotten a chance to see these guys live? Because if you haven't, you really, really need to. I've gotten the opportunity on a pair of occasions, and both times, man, they deliver with the energy. It's phenomenal. and it's definitely a spectacle to see. So that's about all I have. I recommend this album with both thumbs up as opposed to maybe just one or just, making a dick joke or something like that. So definitely go out and pick this up whenever it comes out on Tuesday in America. Monday in, I believe, the UK. It's out right now in Europe, you lucky bastards. But, hey, thank you very much. And thank them. And reward Overkill. Make them no longer seem like the greatest underground thrash metal band not to technically break through. Make them break through. Pick this one up. Let's see this one chart in the top 20. I'll talk to you guys later. Oh yeah, fuck you. And then some.